The $7.5 billion lie. Why EV chargers are always broken. The app says green. For stalls. Available. A minivan rolls in on 9 miles left. Kids asleep. Ice on the windshield. The lot lights hum. The chargers don't. Card declined. Try again. Session failed. An hour from the next town, the battery ticks colder. Mom calls the number on the sticker. Voicemail. Dad checks another app. Still green. They aren't alone. Across the state, the map glows. Everywhere and nowhere at once. Billions were allocated to make this simple. Uptime targets promise certainty. Instead, taxpayers fund stalls that don't start, and drivers pay in time. To understand how the map filled up while stations stayed dark, we rewind. The dream versus the lot. The sales pitch was clean. Fast chargers everywhere. Cheaper than gas. Greener than yesterday. Pull in, tap, charge, go. Early decks showed highways stitched with lightning bolts and cheerful families smiling under a blue sky. Range anxiety would vanish, they said, because reliability would be engineered, subsidized, and standardized. That dream turned heads and opened checkbooks. Now walk a real lot. The screens are sun-faded or cracked. One stall is blocked by a delivery truck that's been parked for days. Another displays, initializing forever. The card reader blinks, then errors out. A QR code sends you to an app that wants an update, a new password, and a billing address you already gave last week. A third stall shows available, but the connector's latch won't seat. A fourth powers on, starts a session, and drops it at 2 minutes. You don't need a white paper to feel the gap. Networks tout uptime. 97%, 98%, sometimes higher. Here's the game. Network uptime can mean the cloud servers are responsive while half the ports at a site are failing in the field. Or port uptime counts hours a port reports as online, not hours it actually delivers energy. A port that pings is different from a port that charges. And the number looks fine if it averages quiet nights with peak weekend meltdowns. Meanwhile, users measure reliability in minutes lost. Early adopters learned to buffer hours into road trips. Charger anxiety replaced range anxiety. You arrive with 20% because you don't trust the last 10 miles. Then you sit hoping the handshake completes. When it fails, you move your car 2 feet, reboot the app, try the next stall, and text apologies to whoever's waiting for you. It's not just frustration, it's a tax on time. Microstalls are the worst offenders. They look online. They even begin a session. But they won't cross a few kilowatts without tripping an error, ground fault, isolation fault, payment token mismatch, take your pick. The session cancels. The app keeps your authorization hold. The dashboard dings, charging interrupted. From the sidewalk, a passerby sees 4 green lights and assumes progress. Inside the car, the battery percentage hasn't moved. Data is scarce where it matters. Most performance metrics are self-reported. Baselines get trimmed to exclude construction periods, utility outages, or host site issues. Peak hour failures, when lines form and reputations are made, disappear into monthly averages. You'll find a glossy PDF with targets met and a comment section under a local news story full of stranded drivers and photos of caution tape around a station that met compliance. And yet, the promise machine kept humming. Press conferences announced corridors complete before transformers arrived. Ribbon cuttings showed officials gripping scissors beside plastic-wrapped pedestals, while the site's utility meter wasn't even set. The dream got funded. The lot didn't. So where did the cash flow? Into hardware, trenching, and headlines. Less into spare parts bins, field techs, and software QA that survives winter. Here's the human version. Daniel, a night shift nurse, buys an EV because the math pencils with home charging. But he rents. Street parking. Twice a week he depends on a public fast charger after midnight. 1 week the card reader refuses every tap. The next week, the connector's cracked. The third week, a new sign. Out of service, awaiting parts. He detours 15 minutes to another site and finds 3 cars in line. He's late twice and swaps shifts. The savings evaporate in missed sleep. Operators face a different calculus. They installed to specs that one grants. They hit the photo op, but their sites bleed cash when utilization is low and maintenance costs are high. Every truck roll eats a month's margin. When a station sits idle, vandalism rises. Cut cables, graffiti, pried open doors. Insurance deductibles turn small incidents into full hits. So the operator delays visits, stretches service intervals, and lets soft-fail stalls limp along because someone somewhere might get a charge through. The slicker the dashboard, the harder the edge cases hide. Roaming integrations can show availability, while tokenization breaks at the curb. Firmware that passes lab tests collapses under real-world noise. Dirty power, temperature swings, worn connectors, and payment gateways throttling at peak. And when the failure crosses company lines, hardware vendor, software provider, payment processor, utility, accountability turns foggy. Everyone has logs. No one has resolution. If the system were healthy, you'd see the opposite. Boring lots, clean cables, clear signage, stable pricing. A session that starts in seconds and never drops. You'd see service vans making regular circuits, not crisis calls. You'd see uptime measured by delivered kilowatt hours during peak windows, audited by third parties with the teeth to claw back funds. Instead, we have a map that says here and a curb that says not today. The dream says fast, everywhere, cheaper. The lot says maybe, sometimes bring a backup plan. And the truth sits in the middle. Reliability wasn't prioritized in how money moved, how success was measured, and how risk was assigned. The dream didn't die. It was mispriced. The money line is simple. Reliability costs more upfront, but less over time. It means parts on shelves, technicians on payroll, and contracts that punish downtime. That's not glamorous spending. It doesn't make for good ribbon photos. But it's the difference between a system and a collection of boxes. The question is who sold the other version, who profited from it, and who pays for the gap. Taxpayers funded acceleration. Drivers pay in hours. Grid operators juggle peaks and press releases. Small towns get a dead pedestal by the diner. The dream was real enough to fund. The lot is real enough to feel. The next step is to follow the money that promised reliability and didn't deliver. The subsidy firehose. To see how the dream got funded while the lot stayed broken, follow the money. Washington opened multiple spigots. NEVI promised coast-to-coast fast charging along highways with federal dollars covering most of the build. Tax credits sweetened hardware purchases. Separate grant programs targeted corridor gaps, disadvantaged communities, and rural routes. States layered on their own rebates. Utilities offered make-ready funds. Everything up to the pedestal. Trenching, conduit, transformers, and meters. On paper, the stack made new sites look irresistible. But announcements aren't energization. Headline totals landed first. Billions allocated, corridors designated, targets published. Actual disbursements moved like wet concrete. Agencies wrote rules, then rewrote them. State DOTs built application portals from scratch. Utility interconnections waited behind transformer backlogs. A site could win an award, hold a ribbon cutting, and still be dark for months because a switchgear shipment slipped or a meter set date kept sliding. Private capital tethered itself to public cash. Operators timed deployments to grant cycles. Business models formed around the incentive specs themselves. If the program paid per port at a specific power level with certain connectors, vendors sold to that list. If a scoring rubric rewarded geographic coverage, proposals stretched into thin routes with sparse utilization. If make-ready dollars covered the civil works, developers prioritized cheap land near existing utility access over places drivers actually wanted to stop. Procurement rubrics favored installation volume over long-term performance. Many grant applications scored heavily on shovel readiness, number of ports, and compliance paperwork. Reliability often sat as an aspirational bullet. Uptime target, 97%. With no independent auditing or harsh clawbacks if it wasn't met. Service-level agreements looked tidy in binders but thin in practice. Vague resolution windows, no on-site parts requirements, and penalties capped below the cost of sending a truck. Award structures made it worse. Programs front-loaded payments at groundbreaking, at equipment delivery, and at substantial completion. Milestones paid when the post stood upright, not when drivers charged through a holiday weekend without a glitch. A site could hit operational with one working stall while the other 3 flashed error codes, yet the funding ledger would mark it as done. Invoices cleared, uptime was left to later. So you got perverse outcomes. Dead-on arrival sites still counted. Port counts climbed while delivered kilowatt hours lagged. Corridors were declared complete by geography while reliability collapsed at peak hours. Developers optimized to the scorecard. Minimum number of ports, minimum power, minimum signage, maximum awards. The incentives bought metal and concrete. They didn't buy maintenance. Meanwhile, vendor lock-in slipped in through specifications. NEVI-compliant sites needed open payments and roaming, but many implementations were brittle. Operators, chasing grants, selected approved hardware stacks that met the letter of the spec but required proprietary tools to service. If a payment module failed, you waited on that OEM's part number and that OEM's schedule. If a gateway firmware needed certification, it queued in a lab that everyone else relied on too. Multi-vendor stacks multiplied points of failure while diffusing responsibility. Paperwork outpaced wrenches. Submittals, drawings, and compliance attestations sailed through email chains. Field crews hit rock, water, or surprise easements. Change orders ate contingency budgets. Utility, make ready, promise savings, but came with sequencing the operator didn't control. A trench could sit open while an upstream upgrade waited on a regional crew. By the time power arrived, the grant window for performance reporting had started, counting availability from the day the modem went online, not from when a driver actually charged. Announcements versus disbursements became a recurring pattern. Governors posed under banners with big round numbers. Agencies published dashboard maps with dots, funded, planned, in progress. Drivers saw the same dots mirrored in apps and assumed reality. But the pipeline was slow, and the dollars had conditions. Many states added their own layers: prevailing wage, domestic content, environmental reviews, each defensible on its own, each adding time between award and usable power. Operators shaped their books around this delay. A site that was 80% paid by public money before first revenue looked like a win, until utilization landed at a trickle and demand charges arrived with the first travel surge. Maintenance, which wasn't subsidized, turned into the shock. Truck rolls weren't reimbursed. Replacement cables weren't offset. Firmware validation time wasn't billable. Cutting service looked like the only lever to keep margins from going negative, and the incentives didn't punish that choice. Few programs verified uptime independently. Many accepted self-reported spreadsheets. A port could be available in logs while sessions failed at the curb. Without hard clawbacks tied to audited, delivered energy during peak windows, reliability sat as a promise, not an obligation. Sites could accumulate months of soft failure. Intermittent faults, payment quirks, temperamental connectors, while the ledger showed compliance met. When money pays for ribbon cuttings, performance becomes optional. The Firehose financed a rapid build, but it didn't finance the unglamorous backbone. Spare parts bins positioned regionally, trained technicians on routes, standardized components across vendors, and service software tuned for harsh conditions. We didn't fund a service business. We funded a construction boom. And construction optics can hide empty lots. The irony is stark. Programs meant to de-risk private investment sometimes encourage the riskiest behavior. Chasing checks first, customers second. The map filled with obligations. The curb filled with excuses. Until awards pay for delivered, dependable charging and pull funds back when drivers get stranded, the Firehose will keep watering headlines, not reliability. The utilization trap. Here's the part the press releases skip. Even if the hardware works, the math breaks when cars don't show up. A fast charging site is a small power plant with rent. There's capex for pedestals and dispensers, switchgear, trenching, conduit, bollards, cabinets, networking, cameras, and signage. There's engineering, permits, and utility fees. There's recurring insurance, data plans, payment processing, site lease, snow removal, landscaping, and the line item everyone underestimates: maintenance. Those costs don't care if nobody plugs in on a Tuesday. Utilization does. A typical four-stall highway site needs a certain number of paid sessions per day just to cover fixed costs before electricity. At low throughput, every empty hour compounds. One truck roll to replace a cable can wipe out a week of margin. Add a vandalized screen or a payment module that needs overnight shipping, and the month turns red. Throughput reality is stubborn. Weekend travelers create bursts, weekdays sag. Urban sites serving apartment dwellers can be steady, but only if they're near groceries or gyms that fit dwell times. Rural gaps have long stretches of nothing, and then a holiday crush. Highways, which NEVI chased, are feast or famine. You can't set pricing to match the surge without scaring off the base. Location profiles pull in opposite directions. Urban dwellers without garages will use public chargers regularly, but they favor reliability and predictable pricing over raw speed. Highway corridors need heavy power for short stops, yet many stops are seasonal. Rural stations are lifelines when they exist, but a 100-mile catchment doesn't guarantee volume. It guarantees pressure when one port fails. A site can be essential and unprofitable at the same time. Then there's the price cage. Regulators or program rules often cap per kWh margins or ban session fees. Operators face energy markets that spike late afternoons, plus demand charges that punish the single worst. 15 minutes of the month. If the site can't pass volatility to customers, it eats it. So companies add idle fees or per-minute charges to push turnover. Drivers hate it. Some avoid stops they don't understand, pushing utilization lower and anti-feedback higher. Idle depreciation is its own leak. Cables fatigue each time someone drops a handle. Boots crack in heat and cold. Connectors collect grit. Contactors cycle even during failed starts. Vandalism is a probability function of emptiness. Empty lots invite bored hands. A tag of spray, paint isn't just cosmetic if cameras get covered and theft follows. Every day a site sits quiet, risk goes up and revenue doesn't. Cornered by those forces, operators choose between bleeding cash and cutting care. Many cut. They stretch service intervals and gamble that one port working will keep the app green. They delay parts orders, hoping a firmware patch rescues a flaky payment path. They route technicians to busy sites and let rural ones drift. Reliability spirals. Fewer working stalls push away drivers. Fewer drivers remove the budget to fix stalls. Here's where utilization and reliability lock together. Drivers flock to the site that starts sessions quickly. The more cars arrive, the more revenue funds same-day fixes, spare handles in the van, a tech close enough to turn around in hours. The site that drops sessions loses trust, then volume, then the money required to dig out of the hole. Two sites 5 miles apart can live in different worlds by the end of a month. Consider a corridor town off the interstate. The diner and motel cut a deal to host chargers. The first summer, road trippers show up on Fridays and Sundays. Midweek, it's quiet. Demand charges clip the margin on those few peaks. The operator tries to hold pricing, eats the bill, and trims the maintenance visit that month. A handle fails on stall 2. Next weekend, lines form at the remaining ports, tempers flare, and 2 cars leave for the next town. The app ratings drop. By fall, the diner says the chargers scared customers, but didn't bring spend. The town blames EV people. Nobody is totally wrong. Mitigations exist, but they're not free. Storage buffers can absorb peaks so demand charges don't detonate margins, but batteries, inverters, and site controls add capex and complexity. Dynamic load sharing can keep 4 cars moving on a smaller service, but it demands tight firmware and clean communications. Smart queuing and reservations can smooth arrivals, but drivers don't want to book fuel like a dinner table. The market tries loss leader math. Retailers co-locate fast chargers and hope for basket lift. Some get it, coffee, lunch, a quick shop, enough to justify keeping the site clean and staffed. Others don't. The chargers become a pure cost center with a PR halo fading fast. Without real utilization, halo light doesn't pay technicians. In the middle of this, session pricing becomes a trust signal. Transparent, stable rates attract repeat customers. Hidden fees repel them. The sites that survive publish rates clearly, avoid gotchas, and still find a way to cover volatility, usually with a buffer created by steady volume. But steady volume is an outcome of reliable operations, which is an outcome of steady volume. Breaking into that loop is the hard part. The trap isn't theoretical. It's baked into the physics of peaky loads, the economics of fixed costs, and incentive structures that paid for installs, not performance. As long as utilization stays low and lumpy, the cheapest lever is to defer care, and deferred care collapses utilization. That spiral isn't destiny, but it is the default when policy counts ports instead of delivered energy during the hours people actually charge. Maintenance is where networks die. Starved sites skip service visits, reliability spirals. Here's how the spiral forms on the ground. A station throws a fault. The operator files a ticket. Now the scavenger hunt starts. The hardware stack isn't one thing, it's 5. Dispenser from one vendor, power cabinet from another, payment module from a third, networking gateway from a fourth, cables from a fifth. Each has unique SKUs, firmware lines, and warranty terms.